All right, we are here at Road America with Prather Racing, and we have Kent Prather of Prather Racing fame. And he is here today at Road America to support his buddies racing.
Well, we come as a big group, and we come to Road America once a year for this, the WeatherTech International Challenge, because this is the best vintage race of the year.
And do you go to other big events as well, or just this one?
Well, there is a really big event called the Collier Cup at Watkins Glen. That's a really good one to go to. VIR is a wonderful track. We have a local track at Heartland Park in Topeka. There's a lot of good vintage races around, but this one is probably the best party.
And I've heard that you're a one-man shop. Are you supporting other racers as well, or do you do it in your shop, or do you do it trackside? How are you supporting our racers?
I started racing in 1979, and as I started to win national championships, I've got 8 national championships. When I first started to win, they started to ask me to build engines for them. So I'm trying to run my repair shop, and we were in Virginia at that time, and also put kids through Boy Scouts, you know how it is. And so I was doing racing engines at night. Finally, we decided to move to Kansas because my wife's from Kansas and her family's there. And when I did that, solely race cars since 1990. Yep, and we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 engines of mine here in this paddock and a couple more up there. So I have 6 or 7 Prather racing engines here. I am a one-man shop. That's the way you keep your quality control up. You don't make any mistakes. And the beauty is that you bring these guys to the track and you make them do their brake checks and charge their battery and do all those things, and you're around for support. And we have other people come down and get parts from us, and because they know we keep everything. You know, my trailer's got just stacks of stuff, and then we write, if somebody gets something, we write it down and restock, so we always have something for everybody. It's just road racing, especially vintage road racing, is one big happy family. Now, my car started racing in 1963, so it was an SCCA car, and I won my 6 national championships in that car initially, until actually it got phased out. G production got phased out, then F production is full of Mazda Miatas, so you can't beat those guys with an MGA. So, and we were doing some vintage racing anyway, and then we did vintage racing and SCCA racing, and I built a Mazda Miata and won 2 championships at this track in that car in 2011 and 2012. So we're quite familiar with this place. But you want to come here because Friday night we get to drive the race cars into town, and it's just one big happy family. You can tell by all the cars that are here in our paddock that vintage racing is really an exciting thing to do. And you can take a car like mine that's not competitive in SCCA and bring it out in vintage racing, and then it's competitive again. Although vintage racing is not necessarily about the win, until you put the helmet on, and all these guys, of course, want to win. Yeah. So it's a very good venue, and we wouldn't miss this event.
Now, between Watkins Glen and Road America, which track is your utmost favorite?
Between those, just the choice of those two, Watkins Glen would be. Watkins Glen is still in the woods, although this place is in the woods too. It's 3 miles around, 3.4, something like that. This is 4 miles around. This has 3 really high-speed areas in it. Watkins Glen really only has 1, so Watkins Glen is more of a driver's course. The backside is really awesome, but it's hard to say that I like that one better than this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you have Moss hanging next to your name. Is Moss supporting you with their parts, or what? Do you have a partnership with them?
Well, Moss Motors has just got the best parts for these old cars. They're a sports car manufacturer. They buy stuff and they resell it. But Moss has parts for MGs, Spitfires, you know, Austin Healey's, Jaguars. And what I liked about, and the reason why I went with Moss, is because they do so much testing on their parts. When they sell you a part, they have tested it. Yeah. And if you have any trouble with it, well, you know, you got something wrong with your car, you didn't install it right, and they'll run through that with you. They'll tell you, well, you know, let's look at this, and maybe they'll find it along the way. And they always want the old part back to see if maybe something happened. So Moss is just a professional organization. We're a professional organization, so I'm honored to have Moss on my car. I get a very good discount, but I've been a dealer for Moss for 30 years or 35 years. I have a three-digit number. Wow. So, you know, Moss has just been a great thing. And in racing, you have to have sponsors. Now, I'd say my best sponsor, my biggest sponsor is Hoosier Tires. Hoosier, now Goodyear had good tires. We won a bunch of championships with Goodyear, and then we changed tire size and we went with Hoosier, and they're just wonderful people to work with. They make sure you have the tire you need and they take care of you. You'll see in vintage racing, we don't rely as much on sponsors as we did in SCCA, because SCCA is so competitive. You have to rebuild your engine every couple weekends, and you have to have fresh tires every weekend. With this, you can kind of take it easy on your tires. But so Hoosier, Moss, they're great people.
Oh, those are really kind words. Yeah. And your car is that MG, correct?
The white MGA right there. It's number 26. That car was built in 1963 as an SCCA race car. I bought it in 1979. I am the third owner of the car, and we've taken it to the level that it's at. It's just that, you know, this kind of a car, production car, back in the 80s and even in the 90s still, you could do lots of innovative things that didn't cost you a lot. Now you have to have professional motors, and you have to have dog boxes, and you have to have stuff to run really competitive. And back in the day, that car originally was flat-towed to the track. The guy would take his station wagon and his wife and just pile stuff in there, and off to the track they went. Yeah. So yeah, it's been around. It's been a race car since '63, and we call it. It is not a '62 MGA this year. It's a 2017 MGA. So.
And what is your favorite English car? I'm assuming you work primarily in English cars. Which are most favorite, aside from your personal MG, of course?
Well, there's English cars and then there's British cars. The British car is like the Austin Healey, the MGA, Jaguars, that kind of stuff. A little bit beefier. The Triumph is, you know, the TR2, TR3, TR6, TR7s. They're all fairly beefy, but they use lighter components. So we call those cars and the Spitfire English cars because they're perhaps more refined and not brutish like the British cars. So we like British cars better than English cars, but we love them all, and we love Mazdas and we love Hondas. Yeah. We're sports car guys.
That's very cool. And if you could tell our readers anything more about Prather Racing, what would you like to tell them?
Well, I guess I started Prather Racing. I was lucky enough that I have two sons. One of my sons, Jesse Prather, is also in business for himself, but I was fortunate enough that Prather Racing had enough going that we were able to do two cars, and he actually won 3 national championships while he was at Prather Racing. So to have your son work with you in your shop for 10 years, and then we got to the point where we built an extra building to put cars in, and we're shuffling cars around every day, and it just was too much. Yeah. So he got his own shop. Now he's got his own shop, and he's been doing that for 5 or 6 years, and he's well known, Jesse Prather Motorsports. So he's in the modern SCCA fray, and those were the guys I was going to have to race against, and I figured, well, at 67 I'll just go ahead and continue vintage racing. But Prather Racing is basically because of my own. You always want to tell the truth, and you always want to do the best you can, and that's what happens.
All right, so Kent, what does Prather Racing primarily do?
Prather Racing really started out as an engine building shop. We have our own dyno, mostly MGA, MGB motors. We've done a lot of everything, you know, Volvos, BMWs, Miatas, that kind of stuff. But basically, Prather Racing is a British engine building business, and I've been doing it a really long time. And the wife says, well, you know what? You're self-employed, but don't you think it's time to retire? So I'm not sure as a self-employed person you ever really get to retire, but I've kind of decided in the last year not to take on new customers. I do a lot of talking to people on the phone, and I give them plenty of advice, and that's all good, and we don't mind doing that. And what we're trying to do now is do some eBay sales, sell some of the old race cars. We've got a really nice Jannetta G4 in the shop that's just probably the fastest G4 in the country. It was done really well when we got it, and then we improved it. And we've got MGBs and MGAs and just all kinds of stuff that we need to sell and eBay stuff. So yeah, I'm retiring.
Well, it's sad to see you go, but we again enjoy your help with the vintage racers. So.
Yep, and they can always call me, so I'm not gone. I'm just I'm more available for advice than I am work.
Very good. Well, Kent, you are young at heart, so we really like having you around here. We appreciate you serving our racers, and thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you.